When we usually think about armor, we tend to think about it in very linear additive terms. Like if you want to protect a medieval fortress, you build thicker stone walls.
Right.
And if you want to protect a modern tank, you weld on more steel, you bolt on composite plating, maybe, add some reactive armor. The entire philosophy is it's just more.
Exactly. Yeah, it is the oldest defensive logic we have.
Yeah.
You put something incredibly hard and dense between your fragile body and the thing that is actively trying to kill you.
Right.
The thicker the barrier, the safer you feel.
And then you take that logic and you step into the absolute extremes of environmental physics. I'm talking about environments so hostile that the very fabric of reality seems to warp.
Oh, absolutely.
And suddenly, that additive logic doesn't just fail to protect you, it actually inverts. You build a wall thick enough to hold back the crushing, unfathomable weight of the deep ocean, and in doing so, that very wall, your ultimate protection, becomes a localized bomb just waiting for a catalyst to go off.
It's the ultimate terrifying paradox of extreme pressure engineering. I mean, at a certain depth, the armor you wear becomes the exact weapon a clever enemy will use to obliterate you.
Welcome back to a special Wednesday follow-up deep dive into the Terra Bathyalis archival logs. So, for those of you tracking the timeline with us today, we are strictly focused on Section 6 of the year 3000 historical record.
Yeah, and we should clarify, we are entirely skipping the overarching origins of the abyssal invasion today.
Right, no Planet X migration theories today, none of that. Our mission is purely to isolate and examine the military execution and really the hard, uncompromising science of the most pivotal naval and aerial engagement of the third millennium. I'm talking about the Battle of the Emperor Seamounts in October 2974.
Which really represents a massive paradigm shift in the historical record. Because if you look at the state of human survival by the late 30th century, the grim reality is that traditional land armies, infantry battalions, mechanized tank divisions, they're completely obsolete.
Yeah, totally useless.
Right. The Human Alliance, or the HA, they don't even bother fielding ground troops anymore because they're facing an enemy that lives miles beneath the surface of the ocean.
So if you are the kind of person who is just fascinated by extreme physics, tactical ingenuity, and those incredible light bulb aha moments where hard science is weaponized in a desperate situation, this is the ultimate case study for you.
It really is.
It shows exactly how a battered humanity figured out how to fight a technologically superior, 100-foot deep-sea alien entity. But to pull it off, they had to completely rethink what a battlefield even is.
Yeah, the HA commanders had to reallocate every remaining resource into two highly specialized, almost contradictory branches.
Yeah.
Naval undersea strike forces and hypersonic high-altitude air fleets.
Right, because you can't defend a beach against an enemy that doesn't need to surface.
Exactly. And they realized they couldn't assault the massive abyssal megacity of Arlaia Prime directly, considering it's at 6 miles deep in the Mariana Trench.
Yeah, the hydrostatic pressure alone would crush any human armada before they even saw the city lights. I mean, you're dead before you even arrive.
Precisely. Which means the entire tactile doctrine had to shift to interdiction. You can't punch the giant in the face, so you go after the supply lines. You starve it out.
Right, which brings us to Operation Abyss Hammer and the target of this absolutely massive physics-defying strike. We are looking at the Emperor Seamount chain.
Right.
And just for a bit of geographical context for you, these are extinct, towering underwater volcanoes stretching northwest from Hawaii. And the abyssals essentially hijacked the summits of two of these submerged mountains, specifically the Jingu and Ojingayos, and transformed them into massive biological power strips.
Yeah, these summits sit about 1,000 meters below the surface. The abyssals build what the archival records call biosilicon hydropylons across these peaks. And it was just an ingenious piece of alien infrastructure.
Oh, totally.
They were channeling ambient deep-sea thermal energy from the volcanic rock and routing raw, quantum molecular silicon or QMS nervous system components up from the depths.
So these pylons acted as massive data and energy relays, right? Like beaming power to their coastal processing hubs in Tokyo and Kamchatka.
Exactly. These were the main arteries keeping the northern alien slave grid operational.
Okay, so the HA decides they're going to sever the artery. But when you look at the forces they assemble for this, it sounds like something out of a fever dream. The logistics of coordinating this two-pronged attack are just staggering.
The sheer asymmetry of the engineering is a marvel on its own. Up in the stratosphere, operating at the very edge of space, you have the 7th hypersonic air wing, known as the stratospheric vectors.
Right.
This is a fleet of 120 uncrewed Aegis V suborbital bombers loitering at 30,000 meters.
Okay, so you have autonomous bombers skimming space. What is waiting down below in the ocean?
Well, hovering in the crushing dark, you have the 3rd Subsurface Task Force, the Abyssal Predators. This fleet consisted of 42 Leviathan-class stealth attack submarines.
Wow.
And we should clarify, these are not the steel cylinders you see in 20th century museums. These vessels utilized advanced titanium matrix hulls, designed specifically to withstand the crushing, relentless pressures at 3,000 meters down.
Okay, let's unpack the sheer insanity of this setup. Because imagine, you're an HA commander. You are trying to surgically strike a biological power grid sitting 3,000 feet underwater.
Right.
And this isn't just a passive target. It's defended by bioelectric arrays that can discharge multi-gigawatt electromagnetic shocks into the water, which would instantly fry the delicate guidance systems of any standard torpedo.
Absolutely fry them, yeah.
So it's like trying to snipe a specific coin sitting at the bottom of a heavily guarded electrified swimming pool, and you have to take the shot while flying in the stratosphere.
The friction of that exact logistical nightmare is what makes this battle so legendary. I mean, how do you punch a weapon through 1,000 meters of incredibly dense seawater from a suborbital altitude?
Right.
If you use explosives, the water just absorbs the blast. If you use standard ballistics, the sheer impact velocity against the ocean surface will shatter the weapon into fragments.
Yeah, the water tension alone.
Exactly. And you can't use smart weapons because the electromagnetic pulses will blind them on the way down.
So you look at the archival logs from mid-October, and it reads less like a tactical military operation and more like a suicidal physics experiment.
It really does.
October 14th, 2974. The operation commences with death from the stratosphere. The Aegis V bombers open their bays and drop these massive, unguided, hypersonic kinetic darts made of solid tungsten carbide, and they hit the surface of the Pacific Ocean at Mach 8.
Honky.
Now, here's where my brain just completely stalls out. If you've ever done a belly flop into a pool, you know that hitting water hurts. At Mach 8, water simply cannot move out of the way.
No, it can't.
The hydro-impact forces should be catastrophic. It is functionally like firing a bullet into solid concrete. So how do these tungsten darts not just instantly vaporize into a cloud of metal dust the millisecond they touch the Pacific?
Right. Well, it comes down to pushing a very real phenomenon called supercavitation to its absolute thermal and kinetic limits. I mean, at Mach 8, standard fluid dynamics just simply cease to apply.
Right, because the resistance is immense.
Immense, as you noted. But the HA engineers didn't design these heavy darts to smoothly slice or slide through the water column. They designed them to forcefully trick the water into getting out of the way by radically altering its phase state on impact.
Wait, altering its phase, like literally boiling the ocean on contact.
In a fraction of a millisecond, yes. See, the nose cones of these tungsten carbide darts were not sharp. They were shaped in a very specific, carefully calculated, blunt geometry.
See, that feels completely counterintuitive to me. If I want to pierce armor or pierce water, I want a sharp needle, a finely tapered point. I don't want a blunt hammer. Why does bluntness help you travel at Mach 8?
Because a sharp point attempts to part the water, which creates friction along the entire shaft of the projectile as the water rushes back in to grip it.
Oh, okay.
But a blunt surface hitting at hypervelocity does something entirely different. The millisecond that flat, blunt geometry slams into the water at Mach 8, it forces the water outward so violently that the pressure immediately behind the nose cone drops to near zero.
Wow.
And that severe, instantaneous pressure drop causes the surrounding water to flash boil into a localized vapor gas bubble.
Oh, I see. And because the dart is moving so impossibly fast, that vapor bubble stretches out and completely envelops the entire length of the weapon.
Exactly. The dart physically travels inside a pocket of its own generated gas. It isn't actually touching liquid water as it descends.
That is wild.
Yeah, so by replacing liquid friction with gas friction, the skin drag is reduced by orders of magnitude. The kinetic energy is perfectly preserved, allowing that heavy tungsten dart to travel from the ocean surface down to 1,000 meters in a literal fraction of a second. It entirely bypasses the liquid resistance, retaining enough raw kinetic force to smash straight through alien biosilicon armor.
It is just brilliant. They used the water's own resistance to create the shield that let them pierce it.
Yeah.
And the strike is devastating, right? The kinetic darts slam into the Jinguguyo. They instantly rupture 3 of the primary pylon relay hubs.
Right.
And this physical destruction triggers something crucial. severing those hubs releases massive, uncontrolled thermal plumes from the deep geothermal vents the aliens were tapping into.
Yeah, and the immediate effect is localized blindness for the enemy. The sudden influx of violent thermal energy and chaotic heat signatures completely scrambles the Abyssal's localized quantum communications grid.
They literally can't coordinate a defense.
No, they can't. Their gigawatt bioelectric pulses are useless because, as we established, the HA didn't use delicate electronic guidance systems on the darts. They relied purely on gravity, mass, and kinetic. I mean, you cannot EMP a rock falling from space.
Right. But the abyssals are an apex predator species. They aren't just going to take a hit like that and cower in the trenches. This thermal blinding of their comms forces their hand. They can't see what's attacking their infrastructure, so they have to physically come up from the deep to hunt.
Exactly.
And that organic response transitions us into the most terrifying part of this conflict. October 15th through the 17th, the undersea knife fight.
Right, so Abyssal Command deploys Fleet Unit Nithis from the nearby Camus Seamount to investigate. This unit is comprised of 30 biomechanical bioships. And to truly understand the dread of this encounter, we really have to visualize what these things are.
Yeah, paint a picture for us.
We are talking about 100-foot-long, living, hyper-intelligent entities. They wear biosilicon hulls like heavily armored pressure suits, and they move through the water with terrifying muscular agility using biohydro propulsion.
So they don't have clunky mechanical propellers, they actually swim.
Yes, they swim.
And as we mentioned earlier, they are highly pressurized on the inside. So, keep a pin in that because that internal pressure is the key to the entire battle. But first, just imagine the human side of this.
Right.
You have the HA Leviathan submarines waiting for them in the pitch black, hovering between 1,500 and 2,500 meters down. It is freezing, it is completely dark, and you are hunting biological killing machines. Now, if you are in a submarine hunting an enemy, how do you find them? The obvious answer for the last 1,000 years has been sonar.
Right, active or passive acoustic tracking. You either listen very carefully for the mechanical hum of their engines, or you send out an active ping of sound waves and wait for that sound to bounce off a metal hull and return to you.
Yeah.
But the HA tactical officers knew heading into this that standard sonar was worse than useless against Fleet Unit Nithis.
Because they are organic, but wait, they're 100 feet long and they're moving fast. Surely a massive creature displacing that much water makes a sound you can bounce a ping off of.
They do displace water, but their outer biosilicon hulls are entirely organic soft tissue. They are bioluminescent, flexible, and, crucially, highly acoustic dampening.
Oh, wow.
The biological density, or the acoustic impedance of their outer tissue, perfectly matches the density of the cold seawater surrounding them.
So it just blends in?
Exactly. When a sonar ping hits them, it doesn't bounce back. It either passes right through their bodies or gets absorbed by their cellular structure. No echo returns to the human subs. To standard acoustic targeting, a 100-foot abyssal bioship is essentially invisible.
So they are effectively underwater stealth bombers. The HA crews are sitting in these titanium tubes, completely blind, knowing 30 giant alien ships are swimming right at them. How on earth do you target something you cannot see or hear?
You have to look for the one thing the Abyssals absolutely cannot hide or mask, which is their metabolic power source.
Yeah.
The aliens utilize internal quantum molecular silicon reactor cores to power their biology and their weapons. Any entity, biological or mechanical, running a localized quantum fusion array is going to generate intense, highly localized magnetic field distortions in the water around it.
Ah, okay.
Recognizing this, the HA actually stripped out their acoustic sonar arrays and retrofitted the Leviathans with hydroquantum magnetometers.
Oh, so they stopped looking for the physical ships and started tracking the magnetic wake of their engines. It's like standing in a dark room, and instead of looking for the person throwing the stones, you look for the ripples in the air they leave behind.
That is a perfect way to visualize it, yeah. The submarine crews navigated the pitch-black ocean by watching their screens for invisible, massive ripples in the local magnetic field. And once those magnetic signatures locked in, the HA submarine Vanguard unleashed absolute hell in the dark.
Yeah, they did.
They fired a massive, coordinated salvo of 80 supercavitating torpedoes, utilizing the exact same vapor bubble technology and tipped with those brutal tungsten carbide penetrators we talked about.
And out of the 80 fired, 5 score direct kinetic hits on the lead alien bioship, designated the Karateth. Now, this brings us back to that paradox of armor I mentioned at the very beginning of the show.
Right, the pressure issue.
Yeah, the physics of this specific kill are just so mind-bending. Because if you think about the classic submarine movie trope we all grew up with, you know, a submarine takes a hit, the hull breaches, the water rushes in, and the immense, unimaginable weight of the ocean crushes the vessel like an empty soda can.
Implosion.
Implosion, yeah. The defining terror of deep-sea warfare. The ocean wants to crush you, and the moment your armor fails, it does.
Right.
But the HA brilliantly flipped that exact physiological trope inside out. You have to remember where these abyssals evolved and the environment their biology requires. They're native to the most extreme hydropressures on the planet.
Yeah, they built their megacity 6 miles deep in the Mariana Trench.
Exactly. Their internal biology requires immense, constant hydrostatic counterpressure just to keep their cellular structures from vibrating apart. So when they swim up to the Emperor seamounts to defend their pylons, which is only sitting about 1,000 to 2,000 meters down, they are essentially operating in the extreme shallows. For them, this is low-pressure territory.
Dangerously low pressure. Let's look at the numbers for a second. At 2,000 meters depth, the ambient ocean pressure pushing against them is about 200 bar, which is roughly 2,900 psi.
Which would crush a human instantly.
Oh, in a heartbeat. But inside those 100-foot biosilicon hulls, to keep themselves alive and functioning in the quote-unquote shallows, those bioships have to artificially pressurize their internal fluids to 1,000 bar. That is over 14,500 psi of internal pressure.
Wow. So instead of a human submarine that implodes because the ocean is heavier than the air inside, this is the exact catastrophic opposite.
Wow.
You have a massive biological vessel filled with 1,000 bar of pressurized fluid sitting in a relatively weak 200 bar ocean environment. The pressure differential is 5-to-1, and it is all violently pushing outward. When those 5 tungsten carbide torpedo tips finally crack the structural integrity of that biosilicon shell, it doesn't crush inwards.
No, it catastrophically ruptures outwards.
It's like popping an incredibly overinflated tire with a sledgehammer, but on a massive biological scale. The ocean doesn't rush in, the alien rushes out.
The technical term is explosive decompression, scaled up to a terrifying degree. The instant the hull integrity drops, the alien's hyperpressurized internal life support environment forcefully and instantly equalizes with the lower pressure of the surrounding Pacific.
God.
The outward shockwave of that rapid expansion is just devastating. The HA commanders realized they didn't need to carry warheads big enough to obliterate a 100-foot alien. They just needed a kinetic dart strong enough to crack the windshield and let the alien's own biology do the rest.
That is just wild. And the archival record from the HA's Submarine Vanguard log describes the aftermath of the Karatev perfectly, and this quote is one you don't easily forget. The official log reads, "Organic matter pulverized by its own pressurized life support."
It's a brutal, sterile description of a masterpiece in asymmetric warfare.
Truly.
By using the enemy's own physiological requirements as the mechanism of their destruction, they changed the tide of the battle. The violent, explosive decompression of the Karatev sends a massive kinetic shockwave through the water. But more importantly, it sends a psychological shockwave through the alien fleet's neural battle cluster.
Right, they see what just happened.
Exactly. They instantly process that their high-pressure biology makes them fatally vulnerable at this shallow depth. Panic ensues, and the Abyssal Vanguard completely breaks formation, engaging in a chaotic, full-speed retreat back to the safety of the abyssal depths.
Which accomplishes the secondary goal. The enemy fleet is gone. The submarines hold the line, clearing the waters and the airspace for the final and, frankly, most insidious phase of the attack, October 18th to the 19th. The Aegis of 4 bombers return from their loitering patterns in the stratosphere.
But they aren't dropping kinetic darts this time.
No. They are dropping payloads the logs refer to as enzymatic deposition shells to quietly finish off the remaining biosilicon structural pylons.
All right, the kinetic violence is over. Here, the HA makes a hard pivot into highly targeted biological and chemical warfare.
Now, when I first reviewed this section, I had a massive point of confusion. I immediately thought, wait, if you drop massive amounts of potent chemicals to dissolve an enemy base in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, aren't you just going to acidify the entire water column? Like, aren't you destroying whatever fragile Earth ecology is left? It sounds like pouring industrial acid into a fish tank to kill one specific snail.
It is a very logical concern, and it is exactly why standard chemical weapons, like strong acids or caustic agents, would be completely useless in this theater. Earth's oceans possess a massive natural buffering capacity.
Right.
If you dump 10,000 gallons of acid over the Emperor seamounts, the ocean currents would dilute it instantly. It would disperse, fail to dissolve the alien pylons 1,000 meters down, and you would only succeed in blindly killing surface marine life.
So what did they use then?
Well, the HA High Command understood the fluid dynamics of the ocean, so they didn't use a general corrosive acid.
They needed something that wouldn't dilute. So what exactly were in these deposition shells?
They developed hyperdense mineral plumes that were heavily seeded with bioengineered silica-degrading enzymes. The genius of this payload lies entirely in its delivery mechanism. Because the mineral plume is engineered to have an incredibly high specific gravity, it is significantly denser and heavier than the surrounding cold seawater.
Oh. So when the shell bursts underwater, it doesn't wash away on the tide. It's like dropping a lead blanket over a localized area. Or, causing a highly controlled underwater avalanche of heavy dust.
Precisely. The heavy plume sinks straight down through the water column, completely resisting the horizontal ocean currents. It lands directly onto the summits of the guyodes, heavily coating the damaged alien pylons in a thick layer of dense particulate.
But if it's a living enzyme, why doesn't it spread or mutate and eat the rest of the ocean floor? Like, how does it know when to stop?
Because it was genetically tailored with extreme prejudice. These enzymes are completely inert when they come into contact with standard organic carbon-based life. They do not react to fish, native coral, or standard volcanic rock.
Wow, okay.
But they are aggressively catalyzed by the specific molecular bonds of the quantum molecular silicon matrix used by the abyssals. Once that heavy mineral plume settles onto the alien pylons, the enzymes activate and go to work. Over the course of 48 hours, they quietly and methodically digest the structural integrity of the biosilicon.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, they turn hyper-advanced, incredibly durable alien architecture into a puddle of useless, non-conductive biological sludge.
No grand explosions, no massive thermal shock waves, just a quiet, horrifying molecular disassembly in the dark.
The pylons are completely dissolved. The neural links to the deeper ocean are severed. The hardware is simply gone.
So when we zoom out and look at the whole picture, what does Operation Abyss Hammer actually mean for the human race? Like, what did this horrific application of physics and chemistry actually achieve in the broader war?
Well, the immediate tactical legacy gave humanity breathing room. But completely destroying the hydropylons on the Emperor seamounts, the HA severed the main QMS neural links connecting the capital of Arlia Prime to the surface outposts.
Right.
It literally starved the Tokyo and Kamchatka processing pods of energy and processing power for 6 straight months. This effectively halted the automated blood extractions occurring in those sectors, saving countless human lives in the short term and severely disrupting the aliens' global supply chain.
It proved they could bleed. But I think the bigger takeaway, the true strategic legacy of October 2974, is what it proved about the fundamental nature of conflict. It proved that while humanity absolutely could not fight at the bottom of the ocean, we couldn't survive the pressure at 6,000 meters down, and we certainly couldn't engineer a 100-foot biological strike ship. We didn't need to.
No, we didn't.
We could map the laws of kinetic chemistry, fluid dynamics, and the enemy's own high-pressure biology, and turn it all into a weapon against them.
It radically challenges how we view technological superiority. I mean, the Abyssals were, by every metric, far more advanced. But the HA realized that true strategic advantage often doesn't come from matching an opponent's strength head-on.
Right, you don't try to out-wrestle a 100-foot heavily armored alien in its own environment.
Exactly. You find the exact environmental physics they rely on to survive, the very pressure keeping their cells together,
Right.
and you figure out a way to introduce a tiny kinetic disruption.
You find the linchpin. Which brings us right back to where we started today. The terrifying idea that your armor, if it is engineered for an extreme enough environment, inevitably becomes your greatest vulnerability. And that leaves you with a really lingering, provocative thought when you apply it to us, to humanity and the real world today.
How do you mean?
Well, as you and I sit here, humanity is constantly looking outward. We are actively looking toward deep space exploration, toward building pressurized, high-tech habitats on the frozen surface of Mars, or even establishing research colonies on our own deep ocean floor.
Right.
We are dreaming of building our own. Exactly. It makes you wonder, when you push into the absolute extremes of the universe, at what precise moment does your own life support instantly become your deadliest enemy? Something for you to think about the next time you look up at the stars or down into the deep. Keep questioning the physics of the world around you. We'll see you next time.